St. Vincent's Hospital. I'm told now we're going to rewind that tape and show it to you again. Here we are. These are the 5 rescue workers, emergency workers, firefighters who were found alive. At least 3 of them were able to walk out of the SUV, the utility vehicle they were found in, buried under the rubble. This is one of those little miracles that gives everyone some hope in this terrible, terrible tragedy. Clearly one of them on a stretcher, one of them, it looks as if in a wheelchair, and we were told that there were 3 who were walking, at least at the time of the rescue. We don't know the condition now. The St. Vincent's Hospital in New York. This, an amazing story. And now back to the White House and spokesman Ari Fleischer.
Connie?
Matt, 2 questions. Do you have any special words for what the United Kingdom has done? The statements they've made are very strong, and today they played the Star-Spangled Banner when they had the changing of the guard.
Yeah, and I noticed today also the United States is not the only nation that mourns. The United Kingdom has lost the lives of many of their citizens. Other nations also had their citizens working in the World Trade Center. And so it's a further expression of the wonderful solidarity that the world is showing with the United States. I think it's very touching for the United Kingdom to play America's national anthem.
Can there be war without a formal national enemy?
Well, as the President has indicated, this is a different type of enemy in the 21st century. The President said this enemy is nameless. This enemy is faceless. This enemy has no specific borders. This enemy does not have airplanes sitting on tarmacs. It does not have ships that move from one port city to the next. It is a different kind of enemy. Having said that, the President also knows that our nation's military is capable of carrying out whatever mission is assigned to it to conquer any enemies. Keith?
Answer to John's question is that the White House view that whatever action is taken and whatever the scale and duration of the action, that you need no further approval from Congress. You'd like something from Congress, but you don't need anything else from Congress.
I'll say it for the 3rd time. The Constitution vests in the President as Commander-in-Chief the authority to take actions he deems necessary to protect and defend the United States. The President is also very encouraged as a result of working with Congress on this joint resolution, which is a real show of unity from the Congress, and the White House will work with Congress on that language.
So that's a yes, right? That's a yes. You need no further approval.
I think I've made it very clear. Go ahead. Gene, you haven't asked yet. Gene, go ahead.
Yeah, just to follow on that note, the War Powers Act does call for approval of if troops are going to be put in harm's way.
Gene, as with many previous administrations, there are questions about the constitutionality of some aspects of the War Powers Act, and this administration shares those questions.
Yeah, but in most of those previous cases, we're looking at largely air assaults. But is it your position that
that's not accurate. There have been some 125 military actions that took place in the United States, and I believe only 5 involved declarations of war.
Secretary Powell, can you tell us anything about special security precautions tomorrow for the President's trip to New York? Are there going to be fighter jets on each wing of Air Force One, for example, like there were on Tuesday?
Well, actually, I do not know the answer to that question, and if I did, I'm not sure I'd be able to share it in all cases. But suffice it to say, the President has full confidence in the Secret Service and those who protect him.
Will he travel with the full contingent? Will he, the usual presidential motorcade that we see, this enormous beast that lands in a place and takes over a town, will he do that in New York?
I think Terry will be a smaller, enormous beast.
He's going to travel. You said that we wouldn't go to New York as long as his being there would create a hindrance to those trying to rescue workers, people cleaning up the debris. When they're still pulling people alive out of that rubble, how do you keep him out of the way and from being a distraction?
Because in conversations with Mayor Giuliani and Governor Pataki, they talked about how it would be appropriate and meaningful for the President to go to New York. And so all factors are taken into consideration. And of course, the President wouldn't go under any other circumstances.
So are you saying he'll keep his distance from actual ground zero?
Well, you'll see, just as when he visited the Pentagon yesterday. You'll see tomorrow. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You talked about the business or the individuals with mortgage help, et cetera. What about the businesses that have been wiped out? Where is the administration thinking of putting some help in that direction?
Well, also as a result of the $20 billion supplemental appropriation bill that is moving its way through Congress, that will provide the means to give assistance to many people, businesses, otherwise, all who have suffered in this.
Secretary
Paul?
Powell saying bin Laden is a prime suspect. Is the administration, the U.S., confident, or does the U.S. know of his whereabouts, where he is?
I'm not going to give any answers to that question.
If I could come back to the...
In the mid-1970s, the U.S. has had an executive ban in place on assassinations. Is the president considering lifting that?
All the president's actions will be in concert with all laws, and I have no information for you beyond that.
All right, former President Bush.
Jim, go ahead.
On that point, is there anything, any restriction that the administration believes is hampering the intelligence community's efforts to deal with terrorists? Are there any restrictions either self-imposed by the agency or by the intelligence community or by Congress that you think need to be eliminated?
I have not heard any such conversations. As always on all these matters, as the President indicated today, the government will keep you informed of any steps it thinks are necessary, but I have not heard anything. I want to go somebody who hasn't asked anything yet. Go ahead.
On the $20 billion supplemental, LNB, as he knows, says there's only $1 billion left in fiscal year 2001 that's on budget, or that's not Social Security. Is it accurate to say that that money can still be expended and be considered without use of Social Security surplus funding, depending on the timing of when that funding is released?
Well, I think there's been a virtual, universal, if not universal, recognition by members of the Congress and by the President that our national security will always come first. So,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Just for clarification purposes then, this is considered a severe emergency, and therefore it's money that's being taken from the Social Security surplus.
I indicated 2 days ago that this was a severe emergency.
LNB was just giving differing advice that it depended on the time that the money is actually spent, and that it does not necessarily mean you even have to use those funds. I'm just trying to get that clarified.
I indicated this is a severe emergency. I also said that the fiscal year, of course, does not close to September 30th, so we'll know more at that time. But national security will come first.
All right.
So go ahead.
Go ahead. The word war is being bandied around here so much, but that word in and of itself carries such a constitutional connotation, etc., and creates a confrontation with Congress or whatever. Is it possible we'll see a ratcheting down of the rhetoric with the administration?
I think you're going to see consistent actions by the administration and statements of resolve and determination by the President, just as you've been seeing. So go ahead. Go ahead.
The 1991 war resolution that Congress passed put some limitations on what the President could do. Would that be satisfactory, something like that be satisfactory to this President Bush? Or would you like something that is less, is more open-ended?
You know, we're dealing with hypotheticals here. Congress today is considering a joint resolution to express its support for the President as a show of unity. And we're talking with the Congress very productively about the appropriate language to use in that. And that's where the administration is focused today.
You would see this as more of a general resolution of support and not the kind of thing that his father got from Congress in 1991.
Well, to be parliamentary, it is a joint resolution. So.
Did you understand my question? I mean, I'm saying it's one thing to pass a, resolve we support the President, and quite another to pass what was enacted in 1991, which said the President can take military action under these
I think this is all very public. This is a joint resolution that is going to move on Capitol Hill, and you'll be able to review the language of it yourself. And I think there are going to be some comparisons that may be apt to 1991, others that will not be. This is 2001, and this is different.
Did the White House suggest language for this?
Sure. We're working with Congress on the language.
As law enforcement officials proceed in trying to apprehend individuals inside the United States who may have knowledge or have been involved in the attacks, What is the president telling law enforcement officials in terms of what actions can they take? Should people be prepared to see, say, phone taps that haven't been used in the past? What kind of civil liberties does the president think should be protected or suspended?
I think you need to talk to the Attorney General about the actions that they are taking. All will be in accordance with the law, of course.
Earlier today, White House officials expanded on the threat against Air Force One, saying that there was a telephone threat to the Secret Service, that Air Force One was on a target list. As the 3 successful attacks were all sneak attacks with no prior warning, why did you put credence in the telephone threat?
Again, you're getting into evaluations that involve the area of how the administration, or in this case, Secret Service, the White House, obtains information. And I think we've exhausted that. Go ahead.
Earlier today, the president said...
White House spokesman Ari Fleischer going to some lengths this Thursday to demonstrate the president's resolve and determination to strike back at whoever was behind this week's acts of terrorism, saying at one point the United States will use all its resources to conquer the enemy, and at another point saying the world is uniting against terrorism. He said this is a real opportunity to prosecute the war against terrorism. Now, Aaron, back to you in New York.
Judy, thank you. A couple of points I want to make just very briefly. One of them you've seen perhaps crawling across the screen slowly, but I'd like to highlight it here because it's important not simply practically but symbolically, and that is an announcement was made not too terribly long ago that all of the major stock exchanges, the Amex, the New York Stock Exchange, of course, and the NASDAQ will open Monday morning, not tomorrow, as they had hoped, or at least thought they might be able to do, but Monday morning, 9:30, all the major exchanges will open. Obviously, the financial community, because it is housed, so much of it is housed down by the Trade Center, has been enormously impacted. The stock exchange is expected to be up and running. I would venture to say not since October of '87 will an opening be as closely watched as that one. Secondly, the weather's about to change here in New York. We have, for the last 3 days, been blessed with extraordinarily good weather, and it is about to get very nasty. A thunderstorm front's expected to move in tonight, right around midnight, a little before, a little after. Gusty winds expected. The dangers here, a little rain probably wouldn't be terribly bad. It would help settle some of the dust down that's in the air, and it might actually help. A lot of rain and a lot of wind are not going to be good at all. There's any wind down there, any big gusting wind can impact the buildings, have an effect on those buildings. It's going to make the rescue operation somewhat more difficult. It's also, honestly, it's going to make the working conditions, which are hardly pleasant now, that much worse. So we will keep an eye on the weather, which is expected to change and then stay very, very windy and quite cold for this time of year, at least through the weekend. All of this is the result of a tropical storm that's out in the Atlantic and is kicking back a cold front our way. The principal things that we are watching right now down by the Trade Center, we keep an eye on 2 buildings. One Liberty Plaza, building we've talked an awful lot about over the last 24 hours. There is enormous concern now that this 60-story building, roughly, this 60-story building could be in danger of collapsing. One Liberty Plaza is to the east of the World Trade Center. On the other side of the Trade Centers, on the west side, almost all the way to the West Side Highway, which is a staging area, we are also keeping an eye on the American Express building as well. This is a building that houses American Express, obviously, Lehman Brothers. It's been used as a triage center since Tuesday. It has been used as a morgue. We saw some smoke coming out of the building earlier. We had reports from our colleagues that as they were being evacuated from the area, that there was some listing of the building. None of this suggests that these things are going to collapse, but obviously there is a concern that they might. And that concern has just been one more problem that investigators have to deal with and rescue teams have to deal with. let me go down to Martin Savage, who has a much closer view than I right now of both the search and rescue operation and the concern about these buildings. Martin, do you have an update for us?
Well, a couple of points we can update you on. When you mentioned the weather, that has been a factor that's been of great concern for the rescuers here. Despite the effort to try to find survivors here, there's also been a very strong effort to take into account the deteriorating weather. They have been working to get the tremendous number of